How we doing this week, Ags? Did that Monday hit harder than usual? It definitely did for me, because after the Ags do what they did, the way they've been playing, seems like every other part of life kind of gets a little bit more sour. You know, as I say that, it feels like an overstatement, but I feel like most of y'all are as passionate about this as I am, to where it actually sadly is true. We all link our week to week happiness based on 18 to 23-year-old kids and a coaching staff. It's kind of a tough life, especially for us Aggies. But there's a lot to talk about, and of course, the number one thing that's in the forefront, all the national media is running away with it. Time to fire Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo's on the hot seat. Jimbo's got to go. And that's coming from mostly national, but, I've seen it from some Aggies. I want to address that and then just a little bit of the state of Jimbo Fisher, the program. And then I want to get into the last game a little bit, more stuff that needs to change, stuff that we can actually fix this year, stuff that, I want to know where we go this year, because there's still over half a season left. And I want the Aggies to escape Tuscaloosa with a little bit of dignity left. So let's talk about that at the end of this video. But for now, let's start with fire Jimbo. Fire Jimbo. Jimbo on the hot seat. It's no question that this team has not met expectations, and expectations are basically what sets your grade on the season. How do you do versus expectations? Well, he's fallen short this year, and he definitely fell short last year. I say he because when you have many deficiencies as a team, where there are many errors, it gets pointed back to the head coach. You have every right to criticize Jimbo Fisher right now. You have every right to call for change. And you have every right to say fire Jimbo Fisher. But here's what I would advise, and I'm just a fan. That's all I am. I'm just a fan, and so don't listen to me. But this is my advice. This is what I'm telling myself, essentially. Save your breath. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. No matter how much we bitch and moan about it, as much as I want to, he's not going anywhere. I mean, there's so much investment in this guy, both financially and just in terms of buy-in. I mean, his players are bought in. The university sure as hell bought in. They do whatever he wants. Building new facilities. I mean, they support him. The AD supports him. President supports him. University supports him. The student body, despite what you might see on Twitter, supports him. Jimbo still has the support. And of course, everything is shaken now. Everything is shaken right now because the season has sputtered out the gate. You lose to App State, you lose to Mississippi State, the way the team has looked. But the level of investment and the trust given to Jimbo does not allow for an early exit. And I don't even think that's the best course of action, even if we were able to do it. Because do you really think starting over at this point is the best course of action? Because first of all, who would you get? Comment down below. Second of all, is that better than just letting Jimbo Fisher adjust and figure things out? And I know we're hesitant. We don't know if he will. But I think there's a chance he does. I think there's a chance he goes and hires a true OC. I don't know what Daryl Dickey does, but a true OC, that was a shot. But I really don't know what Daryl Dickey does. Maybe one of y'all can tell me. He's the tight ends coach, I know that. But he's listed as the OC. But Jimbo's the one that carries an encyclopedia of plays on the sideline and is calling plays the whole game. I think Jimbo's the X's and O's guy on this offense. It's his scheme. What does Daryl Dickey do? But third reason, and this is not something that Aggie fans want to admit or say, but at this point in the season, I'm for saying whatever. What have we really come from? I mean, we had the Johnny year, but besides that, it's not like Jimbo is causing us worse years than what were here before. And yes, the expectations are high, the investment is high, but you're not paying for a record, you're paying for a coach. And he is building a program that is trending positively in terms of everything except for the results. But I'm here to say, don't jump off the cliff too soon. You could have done that with Dabo Swinney, and Clemson never would have happened. It took him 7, 8 years to get that thing rolling to where it should have been, to where it eventually went. I mean, Kirby had some tough times before he got Georgia rolling, and he inherited a strong program. I mean, look what's happening at OU right now. Let's not act like, I mean, it sucks, but A&M was not like this perennial power that Jimbo inherited that's just going down the toilet. It's not what we want overall. I mean, we have higher expectations than that. We have higher dreams and hopes than that. But it's not like Jimbo's killing Aggie football. Aggie football is more relevant than it's ever been. And yes, it's all based on potential and hypotheticals and expectations. But at least we're at a point where we get that respect of having those high expectations. And now it is Jimbo's time to self-reflect and figure that out. I think that that is by far the better alternative to starting this thing over again, flushing the toilet. Because I think Jimbo's a competitor. I think Jimbo wants to win more than even you and I want it. Because he has his reputation on the line, though he has a lot of money to go with it. But he has his reputation on the line. He has pride. We all know Jimbo has pride. But I think it's better than flushing it all down the toilet. That's just my opinion. Now, there's much to criticize right now. And yes, I think him hiring an OC fixes most of these problems. But there are problems all over this team. It's not just the play calling. It's the offensive line. It's the defensive scheme. It's receiver play and experience across the board amongst all positions that aren't able to be brought onto the same page quickly enough to have a successful season, which we have seen happen before with inexperienced teams. And I think a lot of this gets fixed by Jimbo hiring an OC, and not just to take the play calling out of Jimbo's hands. We'll talk about the play calling in a second. But I think more so than getting the play calling out of his hands, I think hiring an OC allows Jimbo to take a step back from the down-to-down X's and O's of the team, look at the team from a bird's eye view, and diagnose and address problems throughout the whole team. I don't know how much Jimbo's investing on his defense. I don't know how much Jimbo looks at his defense. I don't know how much Jimbo looks at the O-line mechanics, O-line problems, the way that Adazio coaches the O-line. I don't know that he has time to do that with his scheming, because he's the schemer. It's his offense. He's the one that does that. Dickey's involved. I'm not really sure what Daryl Dickey does. I might say that a couple times this video. What does Daryl Dickey do? Someone explain it to me. But this is Jimbo's offense and Jimbo's scheme. Jimbo's been asked point blank, would you ever give up the play calling duties? And he said, yeah, sure I would. So, I mean, I say that to say that he's acknowledged that he's the play caller, and everyone knows he's the play caller. He carries the encyclopedia of plays, 900 pages long, on the sideline of games. Imagine how much more he could see or do if he wasn't carrying all that, if he was able to just listen and address and feel the temperature of the team instead of being invested in that. I know Jimbo has a good football mind. I know Jimbo wants to win. It's not like he's going out there and tanking this thing on purpose. He needs to self-reflect and figure things out between this season and the next season. Go hire Joe Brady. Go hire someone. Let yourself look at this offense from third person. Let yourself look at this team from the third person and analyze positionally what needs to be fixed, addressed, changed better than you're doing now. All right, let's get off of the Jimbo talk. But overall, we all just want what's best for Aggie football. We all just want this program to be as best as it could possibly be. We all have different ways of going about that or opinions of how it should be done. But I think we all want the same thing. So stick together as Aggies. Don't fight your brethren. We all want the best for Aggie football. Some might want Jimbo gone now. Some might be might defend him. I think we all just want the same thing here. And it's a weird time. We're in the middle of a season right now. We're kind of coming to this realization that this year is not what we wanted it to be. I think that's all hitting us right now definitively. Most room for hope is gone. Got Bama looming. But damn it, there's still football to be played. So let's talk about what we're seeing, what's happening. Let's talk about the team. Can't hire Joe Brady overnight. Pretty sure you can't. But, Jimbo going forward. We have Jimbo this year. The coaching staff is what it is. This team is what it is. So let's talk about this team and what it is. So Mississippi State, we've had time to digest it, and I've rewatched it. I've thought about it. And I don't think play calling is perfect, but I don't think play calling is the number one culprit as to why this team is not winning games. Once again, I will stand by that. I think better play calling could be on the table with an OC or someone that's not Jimbo. But at the same time, play calling didn't get that field goal blocked. Play calling didn't have A-Chain fumble the ball. Play calling didn't have Max Johnson fumble the ball in that before half opportunity. Play calling is not causing terrible offensive line pass blocking. Play calling isn't causing this three-man front with minimal pass rush that has everybody scratching their heads. Play calling isn't accounting for dropped interceptions or false starts or bad snaps or dropped balls. That's not play calling. That's mistakes. It can still be put on coaching. I'm not saying, the coach is innocent. I'm just saying play calling is not the reason for these things. Jimbo ran the ball a lot early this game because it was successful. Would any of y'all done anything different with how A-Chain was running the ball early in this game? How successful he was? I wouldn't have done anything differently. Between that and the fact that this O-line actually has had success in the run blocking game compared to how they're doing in the pass blocking game, hell yeah, I'm going to run that thing down the throat until they force me to stop it. Now, here is where I have the issue with the play calling. Jimbo abandons the run once he feels like he has to catch up in a game. And he has literally acknowledged this in post-game pressers, where he says, we fell behind, we had to start passing the ball more, we had to abandon the run, we fell behind, we had to pass. I think that's a weird philosophy. I think your whole playbook should be on the table at all times. I like the tempo that the offense ran with once they fell behind. I liked how they were lining up. I liked the sense of urgency there. I liked some of the plays they implemented when they were behind, which was a lot of deeper routes. I do believe that one of the bigger deficiencies in Jimbo's play calling is in the wide receiver route building. Feels like there's never really down the field separation there. Feel like a lot of it is settling for one read then check down in his offense. Now, I don't know if that's his scheme. Obviously, I'm not in the room. None of us are. But it does seem like an ongoing deficiency in his passing game, in his receiving game. We know there's talent out there at receiver, although it's mostly inexperienced. But it's been the same issues for a couple of years in that regard. But as far as play selection, I mean, how much can you really complain about that right now? And I'm sure y'all will. I hope you do in the comments. Tell me exactly where this is going wrong in the play calling department. But I think this is more in the getting the team ready department where the coaching is deficient, where the situations are falling short. I think it's in the getting the team ready. I think it's in the practices. I think it's in the language between some coaches and their players. I think it's changing positional coaches because, as we know, there was a three-man shuffle in the positional coaches. Coley to receivers, Dickey to tight end, and Craig to quarterbacks. Jimbo made the switch there. And then, of course, Henson out, Adazio in. I think there's problems with this team in the language with these coaches to the players because, as you know, when there's a coaching turnover, there is an adjustment period. And for all intents and purposes, that's 4 I listed on offense alone. 4 new voices, 4 new languages, 4 new coaching philosophies. I don't know how much the X's and O's change. It's probably very similar because you don't have to change that. But you are changing your voice and your message. That has to count for something. I think that has to be part of what we're seeing here, especially in that offensive line. And that's not part of the shuffle. This is an actual coach out, coach in situation where Henson leaves and Adazio's in. Now, I don't know if you guys caught some of those camp videos of Adazio coaching the O-line, but it's pretty old school brutal. Cussing, yelling, up downs, high energy. And I'm sure that works for some guys, but other guys might have to adjust to that. That's probably a big change from what they're used to. And honestly, it sucks that this is a reality, but that kind of coaching style scares me a little bit in the NIL transfer portal era. Maybe that's just me being paranoid. Y'all tell me your thoughts on that. It scares me a little bit, but it does seem like a different language than what these guys were used to. because there is some deficiency going on with this offensive line. There is something wrong with their ability to pick up blitzes, twists, to pass block. There is something in the messaging that's wrong there. There's something that's not getting through to these players. Because we saw Fothery, Foster, and Layden Robinson improve over the course of the year last year, only to fall off by a considerable margin this year in the pass blocking department. Now, the run blocking's gotten better. That's why I have no problem with Jimbo doing a little bit of the grinded out stuff, because you have Devon Achane and an offensive line that is really good in this, or pretty good in this department, but really, really bad in this other department. Of course you're going to lean on that run, that grinded out approach. Now, I would like to see more tempo, more shots early. But as I've said before, I think there are opportunities within what we're seeing. So I think that offensive line thing, there's a big issue there. And how many plays were destroyed by pressure this last game? Countless. How many opportunities were squandered because of a bad snap, because of a false start, because of pass pro breaking down before the play even gets going? There were some weird blitzes that Mississippi State was throwing our way. But we were totally whiffing on the pickups. Just how many guys were going unchecked down the A-gap? I mean, that doesn't happen. Just not picking up the blitzes at all. And these three mainstays that I just mentioned are totally struggling. The whole O-line struggled, because the other side of the thing is not as experienced as the three guys I mentioned. So obviously they're having to ramp up and figure things out. But now it's all five. So I think Adazio should be questioned by us fans just in this conversation we're having. Obviously no one's going to go tell him you're doing a bad job, but that's a question we need to raise. Like, what is going on in these O-line practices? What's going on in these O-line meetings to where this talent and these proven commodities have taken a downward spiral? Because if that doesn't get fixed, this offense doesn't get fixed. This offense does not perform well this year if that doesn't fix. You don't do anything if your quarterback's under consistent pressure. Once your quarterback loses trust in the offensive line's ability to pass protect, that quarterback automatically gets worse. He can't be looking over his shoulder. A quarterback cannot be looking over his shoulder. Quarterback can't even look over his own shoulder because he's having to bend over to pick up the ball half the time right now. Those snaps are in the dirt. That has to get fixed. I think it came out that Adazio has changed the way that Bryce has to snap the ball. This isn't confirmed, but it makes a lot of sense because there's something going on there that's just not getting resolved. So, offensive line. You fix that. You fix that pass blocking somehow. We have a bye coming up. Got a big one before that, but we got a bye coming up. If you can fix the pass protection, you can fix a significant chunk of this offense this season. It's not going to be perfect. This team is probably going to lose a couple more games you didn't think they were going to lose going into the year. But in order to salvage this thing and to make the most of it, that has to change. Wide receivers need to get more separation. I don't know if there needs to be a simplification. From what I understand, in Jimbo's offense, the receivers are making reads on almost every route, which is complicated. You're thinking and not acting. I don't know if that's how much truth there is to that. That's what I hear about his offense. Y'all tell me. But if that's the case, simplify that. But keep feeding A-Chain. That was good. Now, here's the weird thing about the usage of A-Chain that I don't fully understand. It doesn't seem like there are a lot of plays that get him in space, and it seems like his instincts are to chase the hole between the blockers. It does seem like that's what he wants to do. On that screen pass that got blown up, he could have bounced that outside, but instead he goes inside where his blockers didn't actually have leverage on that play. He goes outside. Bryce Foster can more easily pick up a block on that screen. It seems like his instinct is to go inside, but it doesn't seem like there's a huge effort within this offense to get A-Chain the ball in space. It seems like most of it is going between the tackles, which he's really good at, but I think you're missing some opportunities to get him in space with blockers like on that screenplay. I would like to have seen more of that. I thought when Anias was in that we would see more Anias in the backfield, more stuff actually going to him rather than using him as a blocker. Also, this is off topic, but where's Keith Brown? He missed last game and no one's really asked the question. Did he play? Is he suspended? Is he hurt? What happened to Keith? He's shown flashes this year. He's one of the more experienced guys in this receiver group now. Need him. Love what we're seeing from Moose Muhammad. I like that Chris Marshall got involved. Evan Stewart. Horrible game. He had an opportunity on that swing pass, tripped in the backfield, like 3 drop balls. I mean, I spoke about him on my post-game video. Go back and look at that if you want to hear my thoughts on what he's doing right now. He needs to fix his act a little bit. I know I'm being hard on him, but what he's done, I think he deserves criticism. But there's just a lot of problems overall. But I think there are still some good signs. Like Moose developing is a great sign. Chris Marshall getting involved is a great sign. Evan having opportunities is a great sign. He needs to capitalize and execute. Don't write him off yet. Don't write anybody off yet. Don't write anything off yet. There's a lot of season left. Max was as tough as nails. I don't think he saw... it's hard to tell on the film what was going on downfield because ESPN's camera work is dreadful. You can never see past the linebackers. It's awful. You can't see what's happening downfield. I hate that. So I don't really know what Max is seeing. But from what I can tell, there's not much opening downfield and he's having to go to checkdowns all the time. These defenses are able to be conservative against us at times and just sit back, and if we get the ball in the flat, they're right there on it. It's not working in that regard. I think the route running is where things need to get fixed up. But maybe things can get simplified. And like I said, if the O-line can figure things out, that's a huge chunk of production you get back because so much has been blown up by the offensive line. Now defense, 3-man front. We're stuck with it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it will. Maybe by some miracle they adjust, but it seems like that's what's going to be the way this year with DJ Durkin. I understand there's some personnel issues in the trenches. You're missing McKinley. You're missing Adelier. Now you're missing Shamar Turner. Eni White hasn't played since the first game. I don't think LT Overton played much last game. Anthony Lucas is playing less and less. It seems like they've really shortened the rotation on that D-line for whatever reason. So I don't know if it's a lack of trust in so many players or just the philosophy. I don't know what's going on there. But it feels wrong. And, we've been calling it bend, don't break. When you bend, don't break for so long and you're getting ball controlled over and over again, it just becomes getting ball controlled. You're not bend, don't break. You're getting ball controlled. You're not able to get off the field on 3rd downs, 4th downs. You're not able to get stops. You're not having big explosive plays. You've had turnovers, but then your offense can't capitalize on them. There's no, carryover from offense to defense. Defense gets the stop, offense doesn't do anything. Offense gets rid of the ball quickly, and defense has to get back out on the field right away to give a big drive. Offense gets the ball back. They're off the field in 3 plays. Defense is back out there tired. It's like there's no rhythm and flow there. Now, if this defense was doing what it's doing and the offense could actually put on sustained drives and capitalize, sure, you could call it bend, don't break. But right now I call it getting ball controlled, and they cannot get off the field. They're not having big plays, and they're not getting pressure on the quarterback. The blitzes are not creative. It's like they're bringing a linebacker in, and he's blitzing. They're bringing a safety to the line, and he's the blitzer. There's so few players that play at the line. There is so little room for deception. It's like if this guy's on the line this play, he's the blitzer. And then you have 4 men rushing. It's just like, okay, you went 3 to 4. And the blitzer was obvious. So yeah, there's very little pressure. The D-line is very inexperienced, but they're getting better. I felt like for a 3-man front, the rush game did get better this game, although it's not where it needs to be to actually affect the quarterback. It did seem like they got more penetration, but they're not there. So it just seems like all the plays by this defense are happening at the 2nd or 3rd level, where it's already a gain and you're able to sustain a drive on those kind of plays. Losing Jalen Jones early in this game really hurt versus this team in particular because they spread the ball and isolate so well. You had to put Deuce Harmon in there. You had to go with Denver Harris a lot. And as good as they are, they're not Jalen Jones and they're way less experienced. And they were able to just isolate those guys and they got picked on 2 or 3 times. Denver had the upper hand on one play where he had the really good pass breakup in the end zone, but then he got hit with that out route at the goal line. Just got shredded by ducking. And then Deuce gave up the long touchdown after A&M was trying to get back into it. Losing Jalen just kind of makes a ripple effect where everyone moves down a player. So that hurt. You're already down Miles Jones, who you can't even count on anymore. You can't count him as a player anymore. He's too injury prone. It seems like he's pretty much done, which sucks for him. Just a lot of bad things going on defensively with the whole team. But there's talent. And there are inexperienced players gaining experience. You got a bye week coming up. What can you salvage this year? We have to redo our expectations. We need to look for improvement. And honestly, bye week is a great opportunity to get Connor Wegman involved in the offense. Let's get the young kid involved. Get him out there. Why not? You're going to probably lose to Bama this week. You lose that game, throw Wegman in there against South Carolina. It's South Carolina. What worse could it be? You're not going to roll with Haynes. It doesn't seem to be the guy. Max is hurt now. And why not just expedite this youth movement? If this Bama game, somehow you go out there and you hit the jackpot and you win the game. Okay, maybe hold off on Wegman, roll with whoever won that game for you, sure. That's not going to happen, probably. So why not throw Wegman out there? Give him the 2 bye week practices, the 2 weeks of bye week practice, and then give him South Carolina and just let him play. That'd be fun, right? That'd be cool. Just youth movement. The young guys are going to gain experience this year. That's having to happen because of just injury and lack of players, lack of bodies in certain areas. You lose Anias, all those D linemen I talked about, secondary injuries, targeting suspensions earlier in the year. Young guys are playing. Might as well do the quarterback too if it comes to it. Might as freaking well. But I'm just trying to think of ways that this team can tangibly improve this year. And I don't think there's a magic pill. There's obviously not. This team kind of is what it is right now. It's a mistake-prone team that's not sharp and just not that good offensively. But I suggest that these 2 things above all else, if you can somehow get something in these 2 areas, you will be able to win some of these games that are going to be up in the air. These coin flip games. These home games at Kyle Field that you were going into the year you felt pretty good about, but now all of a sudden you don't feel good about. That's pass block improvement, actually O-line improvement overall, because the false starts and the snaps are a big part of that. But pass block improvement. Run blocks come a long way, but pass blocking is so bad that you can't even really, they're not a net positive overall. Their pass blocking is so bad that the O-line is a net negative for the team. And then generating a pass rush, whether that's abandoning the 3-man front, abandoning the 5 in the box. We run 5 in the box as our base defense. Does that ever happen? Yeah, you bring DBs in, but those guys get washed out by any offensive lineman or tight end. It's just crazy that you're running 3 down linemen and 2 linebackers. It's weird. But find a pass rush and then fix that offensive line. You do those 2 things, there's a legit chance A&M could win the last 6 games of the year. The scheduling is extremely favorable. Your toughest matchups are at Kyle Field, and they lost to App State at Kyle Field, but for big games, we know what Kyle Field is. App State was not a maxed out stadium. It was not a high energy game. Think about Ole Miss at Kyle Field, Florida at Kyle Field, especially if you draw one at night, LSU at Kyle Field. And then your 2 road games left after Alabama are South Carolina and Auburn on the road. And those programs, those teams are in bigger shambles than even A&M is right now because they have the problems without the talent that A&M has. It's a favorable schedule. You figure out things. You could finish the season 6-0. And I'm not even saying that's likely right now. We're going to have to see progression. You got to go escape Tuscaloosa with some dignity left. You can't just go there and give up in the 3rd quarter. I cannot see that from this team. That'll be such a bad feeling going into the bye week. You have to go, and you need to actively work to cover until the very last minute of this game. Cover. Just cover. Exceed expectations. Do that. Give some sparks of hope. Show improvement. Show fight from week to week. You're showing fight in games, but show improvement week to week. Show signs of life, not to us, to yourselves, to improve going into the bye week and coming out the other side. With Connor Wegman leading the way, hopefully. Just kidding. Maybe. I don't know. Probably. But probably not. Life of an Aggie, huh? Gig 'em. That was Lay of the Aggie Land Week 6. If you guys like this content and want to see more, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. I want to grow this thing, and support from you guys is what makes me want to do this. I want to keep making a platform for us all to talk Aggie football, so keep the comments coming. I love to hear from you guys. Love to see you having conversations in there. I'll try to respond to all of you on this one. Thanks, guys. Gig 'em.